cycle is done.
Welcome to Say Anything, the talk show, a new way of talking. Today's guest for the subject, uniquely me. Hello, caller.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Good. Tell me something about yourself.
I'm a mom of one, I'm a business owner, and I'm in my late 20s.
Okay. So we'll dive right into our conversation, uniquely me. As it relates to you, the uniqueness would be your chosen lifestyle. So, do you have a definition or a name? What would you call your chosen lifestyle?
A definition? Like, do you mean what do I identify as?
Yes.
I normally don't like labels, but I guess the technical term would be bisexual.
Okay, bisexual. And when did you discover that this was something that would be a part of your life, being bisexual? Did you start off bisexual?
No, I started off as liking girls as far back as elementary school. And then once I got in my early 20s and started thinking about where I wanted my life to head, I decided to become celibate. And then once I came off my celibacy, I started dating men.
What was that like for you at an early age, discovering that you were, for lack of a better word, different from what society typically deems as normal?
It was hard. I didn't grow up around any gay people. I didn't have any gay friends. And both of my grandmothers were religious women. So being gay was definitely not it was a very uncomfortable for me all the way up until high school. That's when I started to accept it instead of trying to reject it as if something was wrong with me. Once I got in high school, that's when I started to meet other gay people, and that helped me accept myself more.
So at what age do you think that you were able to assign a label to whatever it is that you were? When did it become this phrase or word, I'm gay? When you discovered you were attracted to the same gender, did you have a name for it? What was your thought process about that? At that earlier age, did you know to say, okay, I think I'm gay, or was it something else? How did you identify this thing, this uniqueness about you?
When I was in elementary school and I first started noticing, like, when my friends liked boys, I didn't like boys. I paid attention to girls. I didn't necessarily have a label for it then. I just felt like I was just late. Maybe I was just late going through puberty. Maybe I just liked girls. It's just like my best friend, or just liked them extra. I was trying to figure out what exactly it was because I didn't have the language for it yet. I would say 6th grade is when I knew, like, for a fact, okay, I must be a lesbian because I like girls more than just on a friendship level.
So did you pretend to like boys when in reality you did not?
I don't think I pretend. I think I did for a little bit, but not really. Like, I never really had boyfriends like that. I was tomboyish. So I don't think I ever really pretended to like boys, but I definitely hid the fact that I liked girls.
Okay. Was that the hesitancy? Was that because your parents, grandparents, acceptance of that?
I didn't want to disappoint my parents or my grandmothers. I didn't want to be looked at differently. I didn't want them to love me any less. For a little while, I thought maybe my parents would stop talking to me if they found out, because I don't think we ever really had that many discussions about it, but I know the topic had come up, and it was stated that by both of my parents, they didn't want any of their kids to be gay. Like, they were adamant about absolutely not.
And I think for some parents, that challenge is, I think even for me, as a parent, I think that challenge for me would be the dangers and the judgment and all the things that come along with an individual that's gay. That is not an easy lifestyle for many. I would assume some don't face discrimination and judgment and those type of things, but you see and hear horror stories about the treatment of gay youth, suicides, drug overdoses, being attacked, and those type of things. Did you experience any of those negative things, or was that a smooth
Yes,
transition?
and I would like to point out that a lot of the suicide happened from lack of support. Like, a lot of gay youth are homeless because they either ran away because their parents sometimes physically attack them, or they verbally attack them, and they just can't take it anymore. And then some parents actually put their child out once they found out that they're gay, which leads to suicide. But also, it's an internal struggle because we grow up in a world where you're taught men are supposed to like women, women are supposed to like men, and anything outside of that, there's something wrong with you. So if you're like me, where I knew at a very young age, it becomes this internal struggle of something's wrong with me, something's wrong with me, I'm not right. And once you have that internal dialogue that's like on a daily basis, and you don't feel understood and you don't feel like you can talk to anybody, it makes you not want to be here anymore, because being here isn't a good experience for you.
Okay. I think, and let's explore this. I think if you take, there's 4 different phases of different types of parents. Okay, so I would think some of that rejection may be that the parent may be embarrassed, right? Especially if that gay child is, what would be the word? Expressive, more expressive than others. Like, there are some gay individuals that you just don't know. They go to the office every day and they don't discuss their lifestyle, and it's not obvious. There are others that guys that are it tends to be obvious, and they make it known. And I think probably for some parents, it may be that embarrassment which is probably really fear of judgment from people around them, people at the church, and how would they look at me that my child turned out to be was, quote, what we society deem as normal. And again, the other group of parents might be the ones that are afraid. Others may simply just don't understand, because in certain generations those conversations are just not had. They were just not. So the lack of education and who has conversations about, okay, if your daughter turns out to be a lesbian or gay or what have you, here's what your approach should be. Are there any type of educational things now that are out there that educates the general public about if my child presents themselves, or how do I make my child comfortable enough to come to me and say, hey, this is what's going on?
Yes, actually, there are support groups for parents. There are actually blog sites. There are plenty of resources now. I can't name any off the top of my head, but I know you can find resources, really quickly off Google. If you don't feel comfortable doing it that way, YouTube, there are thousands of videos on YouTube from not only gay people, but also their parents or other relatives, basically expressing their experience, either being gay and having parents that don't support them, or having parents that do support them. And then there's videos from parents, mainly those who support their children, and what that process was like from them. Some of them start off saying they didn't accept their child at first, but they eventually came around. So there's different resources available to people. But I personally feel like the first step that they should take, if you really want to have a better understanding, is talking to your child and actually talk to them and listen to them, not listen to respond, or listening just so you can try to convince them that maybe they're wrong or maybe this is a phase, but actually take the time to listen to your child and what they are expressing to you.
So is the suggestion then that, so say I become a parent and I have a 10-year-old, 12-year-old, at that point, am I to assume that my child might be gay, so I'm going to have this conversation, or is that a slippery slope to introduce a conversation to a child that may not otherwise entertain that, have those thought processes, but now as a parent, I've introduced those thought processes to them?
Well, I think parents should have conversations with their children about homosexuality in general, because even if your child isn't gay, there's a possibility somewhere along the line they're going to end up with a classmate that is. And you want them to be well-rounded and to be able to deal with them appropriately, instead of them not really knowing, like, to them this is something different. My parents never talked to me about this. I've never seen a gay person before. I've never interacted with a gay person before. This is something different. And most of the time when people come up against something that they don't understand and that's different, they tend to kind of attack it. So I think it's important, whether your child is gay or not, for parents to have conversations with their children about homosexuality, and maybe not necessarily accepting everybody, but respecting everybody, regardless of whatever differences they may have.
What about curiosity?
What do you mean, curiosity?
That if as a parent, you have that conversation with that 10 or 11-year-old, so now I'm curious about gay and the gay lifestyle, and so now I'm introduced to something, so now I'm curious, so now my curiosity has now transformed into, well, let me experience and experiment with this to see what it's like.
Well, it's been my experience that most people that are curious and want to experiment is because they were going to do it eventually anyway, not because somebody had a conversation with them. Like, it's plenty of people that have seen gay people or had a conversation about it, and they don't say, well, you know what, maybe let me go try this too. I honestly feel like some people may say certain things as like an excuse. Maybe they don't want to admit that they may have always had those feelings all along. So instead they say it was introduced to me this way. But it's my opinion. This is just my opinion. But if you are not attracted to the same sex, someone having a conversation with you about that isn't going to then make you say, let me go try this, unless you really just want to try it anyway.
Yeah. I've had discussions with parents, and some of that concerns is the power and influence of social media. So hang on to that question. We'll take a 5-second break for our sponsors, and we'll be right back. We were talking, I had a question about the influence and the power of social media and the power of suggestion, because as we know, with popular culture, with recording artists or sports figures or those type of things, they do tend to have quite a bit of influence on young minds. In my era, it was Prince and Michael Jackson. So they wanted to dress like, walk like, talk like Prince and Michael Jackson. Not everyone, but a select few, absolutely everything about those two guys. They mimicked or what have you. So now, I actually had a conversation with some young ladies, some preteens and teenagers, and one of the things where they were able to just run off names of gay couples that they've seen on the internet. So now these people are famous. Now they are a lesbian couple. So, and they have many, many views. And this is kind of what the conversation was like. So now, and just like I, wanted to grow up and play wide receiver for the Falcons because I saw this wide receiver. So now I see this social media star that's saying she's lesbian and everybody loves her. So now, do you think just the possibility, and we have to have these hard conversations so that we can educate ourselves? And again, it's always about openness and honesty, and for me, I believe is how people heal. So you understand what I'm saying about that influence of that social media person that's gay or what have you. So now the little girl is like, okay, if I want to be popular like this, then I have to act this way, and then I can have 2 million followers and 5 million likes.
I get what you're saying, but I feel like there's different avenues to take. Like there's like how the people twerk a lot on social media now, so they can easily say, well, this woman gets a lot of views off dancing, I want to dance. But as far as influence go, yes, everybody is influenced, especially with social media. That's why I personally feel like children of a certain age shouldn't be let on social media or allowed to watch certain things. Like some people get in the uproar about certain homosexual sex scenes being on certain shows, but nobody's forcing you to watch that. You can turn off the TV if you don't want to see that. You can monitor your child television when they're watching television and not allow them to watch adult programming that will have any type of sexual content in it. But to me, I just still feel like, yeah, I'm not saying you can't be influenced by your surroundings and what you see, but I was surrounded by all heterosexual people, and it didn't make me want to be like, say, hey, let me go ahead and try this out because it looks fun. I was trying to figure out what was wrong with me that I wasn't wired that way. It didn't make me necessarily want to be that.
Okay, and I've also had conversations with people and actually researched about and had honest conversations about several people were introduced to the gay lifestyle. Again, we're having these hard conversations that people usually don't have openly, but needs to be talked about. And that is, they were introduced to that gay lifestyle by force. They weren't
by who?
By force. Some older person introduced them of the same sex, took advantage of them, and introduced them to that lifestyle. A lot of people, there's a taboo subject, but men are also subjected to rape, just like women. And those guys are now introduced to that situation where, my knowing some of them, I feel like had that not happened, perhaps, maybe they would have taken a different journey. Not that I love them less, they're still my friends, but our conversations with them pointed in that direction. Well, how when did you know? Where your response was, I knew it was in me. I knew I was different. Their conversations were, this thing happened to me. This person did this thing to me. And I was introduced to this. So what do you think about those who came into the lifestyle that way?
That's something different, and I think it's like a case by case kind of thing. I think most people that were molested and then they go on to continue to have sexual relationships with that same gender, it's probably coming from just that's what they know, that's what they were introduced to, and they haven't had a chance to deal with their trauma. But what also can happen is they won't become homosexual, but they'll become very violent toward homosexuals because they were violated by a pedophile that happened to like the same gender.
All right. So now let's
But
pivot.
I feel like if a gay person's first experience was being violated by an older adult, they need to go to therapy and get help for their trauma so they can talk to somebody and work through their emotions and their thoughts to see, do they really feel this way, or are they just experiencing the side effects of being groomed?
Okay. So now back to Uniquely Me. Walk us through the mindset of an individual that you said your first instinct were that you were gay. attracted to women. So in your introduction, you introduced yourself and you said you were a mom. So how does a gay woman become bisexual and a mother?
Okay, I would like to start off by saying being gay is absolutely not a choice. I want to repeat this. Being gay is absolutely not a choice. We cannot help who we are attracted to. But for me personally, in my experience, like I said, when I was in my early 20s, I went through a spiritual journey, and I just started deciding what I wanted my life to look like and what type of legacy I wanted to leave behind. And I felt like I needed a husband in order to accomplish the things that I want to accomplish in life. So I became celibate to kind of, how can I put this? I don't want to relate this to it, but this is the only thing I can think of off the top of my head. Like a drug addict, you have to remove them from drugs and they have to abstain from that. So I was cleaning my system from dealing with women. So I became celibate for, I believe it was almost 3 years. And then off my celibacy, I started dating men. But when I first started dating men, I was not attracted to them. Like even now, I can look at a man and see that he's attractive, but I'm not sexually attracted to men in the same way women are. The man that I have my child with is, I can honestly say, probably the only man that I have a real sexual attraction to.
So at that point, that is when, by definition, you go from a gay lesbian woman to a bisexual person.
Yes.
So is there, within the gay community, is there a pushback on women that are gay, that have gay friends, and all of a sudden, hey, guess what? I'm dating a man. Hey, guess what? I'm pregnant. Hey, guess what? I'm now a mother. Did you receive any backlash from your gay friends or the gay community if you, in fact, had to now redefine yourself with them?
I didn't receive any pushback. People were definitely confused, but there really wasn't any pushback. But within the community, yes, you can. Some people do like look down on you, because at one point I was I don't know if it's still called this, but there used to be this term called a gold star lesbian, and that's a woman that has never had sex with a man. And they're like, I don't want to say top tier because that's like ugly, I guess, to say. But a lot of gay women prefer those type of women because they feel like there's no chance that she's going to wake up one day and break my heart and tell me that she want to leave me for a man.
Okay.
But, and that's actually like a thing within the community, like how some lesbian people or gay men will have issues with a bisexual woman or a bisexual man, because even within the community, it becomes where you're being selfish. Why can't you just pick one? And then there's also the insecurities of you're going to wake up and leave me for this opposite gender. So sometimes there are some lesbians that will absolutely not date a bisexual woman because of that.
Okay, so now let's ease the conversation into the flip side of it. Heterosexual men that are willing to date and have relationships with bisexual or gay women? Do you find that for some guys that's just like an adventure or a fetish to say that not only have I conquered heterosexual females, but now I have this this star on my chest that now I've been able to capture the mind and senses of a lesbian woman to the point that I could have her sexually?
Can you repeat the question?
From the man's point of view, for example, this guy that you ended up dating and having a child by, do you think that there's some type of attractiveness to them being able to, if they're introduced to a gay lesbian female that's never been with a man before, do you think part of that might be that that's a challenge and that'll be another notch in my belt, a star on my chest, that I was able to captivate the mind and eventually physically be with a woman that had never given herself to a man before? Is that some type of fetish or something to go and brag to the fellas about?
Yes, I think men would probably be more quick to talk about it, but yeah, it's the things like men used to say to me all the time, like, you're too pretty to be gay, or like, it's kind of like it is a fetish. Straight men do fetish turning a lesbian woman straight. But in my instance, the man I had a child with, he didn't know that I liked women when we first started talking. That wasn't something that I revealed to him until a little later. So I know that his intention wasn't to, okay, let me get this lesbian girl and try to turn her out, because he didn't know that part about me.
What made you delay and not immediately make that known? Was there a fear that if I introduced myself to him, this man that I'm attracted to in some type of way, if I say, hi, I'm uniquely me and I'm a lesbian, but I'm attracted to you, was that a fear?
No, it wasn't. I waited until I felt like he should know. Like, I just don't reveal all of my personal business to people when I meet them.
Right.
I felt like it wasn't his business. If I feel like it's not someone's business to know my sexual orientation, then I don't tell them.
Right.
I don't hide it, but I don't broadcast it either.
So that was one of the difficult conversations that I mentioned about a person that's, quote, physically displays their sexuality. No matter what even some people can see heterosexual couples, but they are overly sexual, overly heterosexual publicly. So it's the same thing with a gay man that, I believe the term is flamboyant. You know, they may wear what was traditionally known as women's clothing and high-heeled shoes and purses and fingernails and things like that. And then there are people
That's not just mutually exclusive to gay men, though. A lot of men are actually called gay when they're really not gay. They're just extremely feminine, but they like women. Like, there are even some men, I believe they're called, I don't know the correct terminology for everything. I don't know if they're still called cross-dressers, but like men who will dress up in women's clothing, but they will have a wife and kids, and they love their wife and kids, and they love having sex with women. They don't have a gay bone in their body, but they like to dress up like women.
thing that we see. So, for example, I'm assuming then that you could go any place at any time and no one would look at you and say, this is a lesbian or a bisexual woman. There's not a clue there. Where, on the other hand, you might see, and I don't know the appropriate term for it, but you may see a female that tends, again, and she may not be and may be attracted to men, but from that outward appearance, she wears men's clothing, her hat is turned to the back, she has the tats, those type of things. So people would then look at that person, which is judgment, and we should not, but we do, by people's physical appearance and how they carry themselves. But there are a lot of individuals like yourself that can, I guess, for lack of a better word, exist in both worlds. So is that statement, I recall you saying something about cheating and why can't you just choose? Does that mean being with the same sex, or is there also a culture, which I am told, even within the gay community, there are differences? I've spoken to guys that are gay, and they do not like when another gay male is
It's flamboyant.
very, very expressive and flamboyant and pink hair and those types of things. They do not
I
like
never
it.
understood that. I don't see why him being flamboyant is a problem. I honestly feel like it's an issue of some people, how you said, how I don't look. Like if you look at me, you wouldn't know that I'm gay. A lot of people, I believe that's how society wants gay people to be. We don't want to know that you are gay. You can just be gay in your house, not in public, and that's not fair to tell people how they can and cannot act just because it makes you uncomfortable. Like, people have the right to have whatever type of personality that they have. If this is a gay man and he's eccentric and he likes to be flamboyant and or whatever and extremely feminine, that's fine. That's his particular brand of gay. And your particular brand of gay might be people can look at me on the street and have absolutely no idea what my sexual orientation is.
Have you had the conversation with, and I actually have asked this question, but that for some people it is an open expression of, so I dress this way, I wear men's clothing and Jordans and my hat turned back and my pants sagging because I want other gay females to know that I am lesbian and this particular type of gay woman or lesbian. I think there's a name for that, studs or something like that, I'm told. So I am my outward appearance so that I'm easily identified as such, and so with a flamboyant male. In some rare cases, would you not agree that that may be intentional so that they can announce themselves and there's no mystery about what I'm about?
Yeah, they could do that, but there's also codes within the community, like you can wear your jewelry a certain way, you can wear your clothes a certain way, you can wear certain colors, and another gay person will be able to spot you. But yes, it's possible, I guess, for people to act a certain way or dress a certain way so people know that they're gay. But I mean, most people, if they're trying to attract a certain type of person, they would dress the way that particular person to attract that particular person. Like, if I liked women that dressed in suits, then I would dress in suits because I'm trying to attract that particular woman. I've known a couple of studs. I've never heard, a stud is a woman that dresses like a guy. I've never once heard any of them say, I dress in men's clothing because I want other gay women to know I'm gay. It's always been I like the way men's clothes look better than women's clothing look. I've never heard it be because I want people to know that I'm gay.
Okay. So now let's transition to another uniquely me conversation about that lifestyle, and that is parenthood, being gay or bisexual and being a parent. That brings about so many questions for a lot of us. So it's kind of like so now I am bisexual and I have a child. So now, at what point do I ever have a conversation with my child about my lifestyle, or is it that my preference to who I date or whatever is my business, and I will not display it in front of my children like old school mothers? You know, when a husband would die, whatever, they would never bring another guy, date another guy around their kids. So in this case, imagine your child being, well, they're wise at younger ages, but 12 or 13, right? So he's seen you with, or she's seen you with the father. So, and you have not endured with a woman. If you have, you go and do whatever it is you do and come back home. So they never see that part of you. Do you feel that there's an obligation for you to educate that child about the fact that, hey, mom is also this?
I mean, you don't have to. I'm going to. Whenever I have a conversation about sex with my son, I'm absolutely going to tell him the truth. I don't see a point in hiding it from him. It's not something that I'm ashamed of. And also, if I happen to start dating women again, I would have already told my son. It wouldn't be like, I'm gonna drop this bomb on you, and also I got another bomb. Here's this woman, I'm dating her. I wouldn't do that to my son. So whenever we have the sex talk, I'm going to reveal to him whatever my sexuality is, and I'll answer any questions that he may have for me, honestly, and I feel like every parent should do that. I know every parent isn't gay, but I don't think lying to your child helps or protects them in any way. I don't think me keeping my sexuality from my son is going to help or protect him from anything.
Okay, so now the other hard conversation, because I had a lot of real raw and honest conversations with heterosexual people as well, and one of the things was, and I'm sure this is based on what they consider norm or the normal, that is, okay, so if you are gay, bisexual, why would you then have a child? Again, because some of the judgment seems to be, for me, is based on what's defined as what society has decided is normal. And of course, some of it is they utilize recall you saying that you had two grandmothers that were these ultra religious women. So in that case, religion is used in that same manner. So it's then like, how do you bring a life into this situation? Or you have two gay gentlemen that adopt kids. Give me your honest opinion as a bisexual woman.
I'm trying to make sure I understand your question. Like, are you asking me how I feel about homosexuals having children?
Yes, because a lot of thought processes is, if I have two dads, then chances are they're going to introduce me to this gay lifestyle, and so now I'm going to be gay. These are the quiet.
Well, both of my parents are heterosexuals, and I turned out to be gay.
These
so
are the quiet as
I don't,
so.
I don't really understand when
that-
people say that
in
though,
that- right.
because most gay people come from heterosexual households where dad is straight, mom is straight, but I'm gay. So I don't. What your parents' sexual orientation isn't going to dictate yours. Like, my mom loves men, I don't.
Right. So now.
So, I mean, I'm sure if you grow up in a LGBT household, like, you're going to be exposed to certain things, and you may even pick up on certain things. But if two gay men adopt a son, and that son grows up with them, and he sees them kissing on each other, and there's other gay people that come to the house, he sees lesbian couples or whatever. If he doesn't feel an attraction to men, then he's not going to turn out to be gay. Like I said earlier, you can get on YouTube and see from a child's adoptive child perspective that grew up with either lesbian or gay fathers, and they are not gay. I think that's actually a really bad stereotype, that if a gay couple has a child, then the child is automatically going to turn out to be gay. And it's even said sometimes that they may molest the child or something. They might be pedophiles or something secretly. But to me, outside of some type of sexual trauma happening to you, you are the only person that can dictate your sexuality.
So,
like I said, I didn't grow up around gay people. I didn't grow up around seeing gay people. Not on TV, not in real life, but I obviously turned out to like women.
uniquely me, we hope to continue this conversation through others listening in and viewing our session, and hopefully this will help someone that's about to travel down this very unique journey that you have taken upon yourself, and keep us updated.
Okay, thank you for having me.
Thank you.